Now, in those 5 years, between the time you became active and the time you married this guy, how many different men were you with? And she said, 60. It's like, whoa!
Ruslan.
So on another occasion, talked to a young lady who was 26 years old. She had married at 21. And she and her husband had come to one of our workshops because of the fact that their marriage was in big trouble. And during one of the breaks, just the two of us were talking, and I asked her, I said, so what's the main problem in your marriage here? And she said, I'm just bored and I need to have more excitement. Now, I'm looking at her husband across the room, and he's a good-looking guy, and he's in good physical shape and those kinds of things. And so I said, why is it not giving you what you want? And then I thought, and I asked another question. I said, so tell me when you first became active. She said, at 16. And I said, and when did you marry him? She said, 21. Now, in those 5 years, between the time you became active and the time you married this guy, how many different men were you with? And she said, 60. It's like, whoa!
Darkness. Pandora's box is open.
I legitimately feel bad for this young lady.
Absolutely.
Someone said, nah, she for the streets.
Stop. She's married now.
Hey, but listen, Ray. Listen, Ray. You could choose to sin, but you can't choose the consequence.
Of course not. But we have the promise that all things become new.
I don't know if all physical things become new.
Not all physical things become new, but minds
become new.
Minds become new. Yeah. And that's the war that we have spiritually, is ideologies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, before Christ's eyes, when somebody is forgiven, they're washed for real.
Yeah. That doesn't mean they're not going to deal with the consequences.
That doesn't mean they're not going to deal with the consequences, but that doesn't mean that they're hopeless and helpless and that God cannot restore their mind, because be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah. And this is her attempt to get restoration.
That's right.
However, if we're going to be very specific, different people have different degrees of debt they have to pull themselves out of.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
So
the beauty of marriage
yeah.
is that reflection of the cross where God journeys with us. There are things that we outside of that you can bring into a marriage, baggage that your spouse is going to have to work with you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I will parallel it to someone that me and my wife got married. We were in a lot of debt. Right.
That's good analogy.
And we
had a big problem.
It was hard for us to pull ourselves out of the debt.
Absolutely.
We had to work on pulling ourselves out of the debt. Now, there's other people that can get into marriage and they can just avoid the debt.
That's right.
Right. And then there's other people that get married and they got hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Someone called into the Ramsey show with $1 million in debt.
Yep.
So they're all different degrees of things they have to work out of. And so, yes, your mind is transformed. Yes, you're born again. Yes, you have new desires. All those sorts of things, which are 100% true.
Yeah.
However, you still got to go and work out that debt. You still got to go. You still got to go through and work through that. Yeah. And so, $45,000 in debt is way different than $450,000 worth of debt.
And
this lady got $450,000 worth of debt.
Your emotional restoration for some people for certain things will be for the rest of their life. Until they see God in glory.
Yes.
Or it can be for a few years. If we compare it to debt, right? It could be, hey, how long is it going to take for two people?
Right. It took us 18 months. Right? Quick. Yep.
And there's some people who it takes them 5-10 years to get out of that situation. Yeah. I just want to tell people the reality of the consequences of their sin, but the reality of grace abounding much.
Yeah. Cassidy said, why would we shame instead of correcting if we're set free from guilt and shame? I don't know if the objective is shame as much as the objective is, here's the reality. Here's the reality. You have $500,000 in debt. It's going to be harder. You're going to have to be more diligent.
And the word shame wasn't used. It was, we're condemning that something is wrong.
Yes.
Right? And I personally don't use the word condemning something, that's saying the word I condemn this as wrong. Yeah. It's just a figure of speech, because the word condemning has it causes people to be like, condemn, But, I think that is healthy. Condemn is just saying, hey, we are valuing this as a net negative.
Yes.
Right? This is why we condemn other things, you know?
Yeah.
Eating too much.
Yeah. Brylan just said, our culture takes correction as shame. I think that's a W take.
That is a W take. And check this out. Proverbs says it really well. A wise man loves correction. You know, a lot. And actually, it doesn't even use a pretty word like correction. It uses the word rebuke.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And I said, is it any wonder that this guy you find dull and boring because you've been making love to him for 5 years, when in the previous 5 years you had different sizes of men, some tall, some short, etc. You've had different skill levels of men, etc., etc. You have conditioned yourself that it should be different over and over and over again, always a new experience. You have actually imprinted that into your brain. And until and unless you can find some way to get past that, there is no one man who will ever sexually satisfy you. Because the more partners you have, whether you're male or female, the more partners that you have before you get married, the more that's going to affect your sexual satisfaction level in the marriage.
That's right.
You're going to be comparing whether you think you will or not.
Yeah. Hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Over 75% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing and turning your bell notification on so that you don't miss anything we have going here. And this is proven repeatedly by multiple studies over and over.
This is why God's standards for your life are better than your own.
Come on.
And so, and listen, this is not, you know, this is not a time where we're gonna tell other people this is not a time where we're gonna single out people and be like, you did this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're just saying, hey, God loves you so much and his way is so much better.
Yeah. And listen, I don't think this diminishes somebody's value. I think this increases the work they have to do. If you're sober about the work, then just be sober about the work. What I don't
let me
like.
ask you a question.
Hold on, let me finish the thought. What I don't like is when we say stuff like you're born again, you're made new, you're transformed by the renewing of your mind. All of that is happening in the spiritual sense, but there's still real realities we have to deal with.
Absolutely.
And so I think when we say stuff like someone in the chat said, well, there are people who've had hundreds of partners and they're happily married. It's like, that's the exception. That's the exception.
Yeah, that is
and
the
God
exception.
can do a supernatural move, but let's not pretend that it isn't going to take more work for them.
Let's not live our lives towards the exception, right?
Not only that, but like if there's exceptions of people that overcome all the odds, let's not pretend that they don't have to put in more work, that it's not going to be more difficult and more challenging for them, because that doesn't love them well.
Right. And I think, and this is the question I was going to ask you, and I'm going to try to word this in a certain way because I'm still chewing on this idea.
Sure.
But I believe Paul makes a differentiation between sins against the body, right, and other sins,
Sure,
and how they have a greater
First
effect.
Corinthians, I think, right? Yeah.
And so I think that we use this jargon in church where we say sin is sin, right? And the way I believe, Ray, the way I see in scripture that sin is that the cost for sin and sins was the same. So Jesus died for sins that are going to take you a longer time to get over, and sins that will take you a shorter time to get over.
Come on.
Right?
Yep.
So it's not that they're on the same level, okay, in its effect. Right? It's that the cost and the price for them was the same.
That's good. That's good. No, that's a fact. Yeah, and I think that's a great theological breakdown of it. And I think people need to be reminded, because it's theology, and then we have to work through things in a natural, the practical. I think there's all kinds of problems people have. Financial problems, which is a huge contributor to issues in marriage. This is a huge contributor to issues within a marriage. The more partners you have, the more likely you are to be divorced, the more likely you are to never be satisfied in a marriage. There's all kinds of issues people have in a marriage. What I don't want to do is tell the person that is $500,000 in debt that it's all going to be peaches.
Yeah.
That doesn't love them well. That doesn't serve them well. And for the people that aren't $500,000 in debt, can hopefully hear the story and go, I'm going to avoid that. I don't want to be like that person.
Yeah, and statistically speaking, just because something's at the top right now, if you look at all the statistics on why people get divorced, money's number one.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's promiscuity and going off and cheating. But here's the thing. Why would you even entertain number two? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, don't worry about it. You know, as long as the money's good, people are going to stay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
What?
Yep. Yep.
I'm sitting here thinking about how, first of all, I am blessed that I grew up in a home that taught me morals about sex. That's something that happens between a husband and a wife, to wait till you're married, all of those things. And so
Good job, parents.
we did, right? Like Rob and I are just Rob and I. That's for both of us. That's the only person we've ever had. And I'm so thankful because it's such an intimate and vulnerable thing that if I thought that I was being compared with him with someone else, like that would be difficult. And then same on the other way around. But I'm also well aware that this is not what all parents teach their kids. And also, it's a cultural belief that sex makes you happy, so you should just have sex with whoever when you want to, all of those things. And so what you and I are saying, well, I don't know if we've explicitly said it yet, but we believe sex should be something that happens within a marriage, right? Between those two people.
That's right.
But that goes against everything that culture is saying.
But we've talked about love on previous programs, and according to Sternberg's research, love has 3 basic components. One is intimacy, intimacy, where you can be open and transparent and vulnerable. You build that trust. Another is passion, which has a sexual component, but it's basically about a craving for oneness. And then there's commitment, which is almost a daily decision that I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this relationship alive. Now, that's what love is. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I personally see human beings as being triune. Triune? That there's basically 3 parts of us. And you say, what do you mean? Well, there's the physical part of us, you understand, and then there's the logical part of us, and then there's the emotional part of us. You say logic and emotions are not the same thing? No, they really are. One can be analytical, the other goes primarily off what you're feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
And if you want to look in a spiritual kind of way, we're a triune being in the sense that not only do we have a body, but we also have a spirit and a soul. And you look at those things and say, so what's your point? If you really have sex in the way it was designed to be fulfilled, it's not just to make a baby, although that's the way we're designed. We are designed that sex makes babies. I mean, that's the way we're put together. But in the way that it was designed to be, and I'll just refer to my religion for a minute, where it talked about that Adam knew his wife, Eve. That's back in our book of Genesis. In other parts of my Bible, it will talk about knowing your wife, becoming one with your wife or your husband. I even wrote a book called Becoming One about that. It's not just having 2 bodies joined together, but 2 hearts, 2 minds, two souls joining together.
That's good.
And you can't do that with a lot of different people.
I like this conversation. I think it's really good.
I really like this. I also like the fact that he talks about these 3 different types of love. I know that there's 3 Hebrew words for love that is called raya. Another one is dod, and the other one is called ahava. And one is dod is where we get the word the Greek word eros, right? And I like this idea because, you know, these 3 things working together, you need them to work together.
Come on.
You know, because, for example, when you think about an affair, right? An affair is secretive, right?
Yep.
So you have the eros, but you don't have the friendship because you have to hide it.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying?
That's good.
Or when you think about the 2 couples that have been together for a long time and they're together for the kids, but they sleep in 2 different beds, right? They have commitment, right?
Yeah.
They have commitment, right? But they don't have that passion, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not working harmoniously together. So we need all 3 of those things working together.
That's good. That's a gem right there. It's Ray Rock, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.